Hey there, everybody. I just got done with my first ever 100% virtual 3-day training experience. It's more of an event than it is like a training per se. And about 2 years ago, I decided to go down this path of doing live events and doing trainings, doing one-to-many rather than doing as many one-on-one sessions. And before I wrap up all my equipment and put everything away, I'm in the basement of my home. And so I wanted to share my thoughts and my journey through this experience. Number one is for those of you watching, to take away inspiration or just kind of give you insight on what I went through to get here, and then also how to help you if you're going through something that you may not see come to fruition yet. And then also I wanted to make this video just to document it for myself so I can go back at some point in the future and just kind of remind myself of what it took to finally get me here. Because I finally feel like I sort of cracked the code. From the making of this video, it's 6 years and 3 months since I started and I went through my first hypnosis training. And for those of you who don't know, my mom actually bought me an introductory hypnosis course as a Christmas gift. And so in March of 2019, I went to this course. I had zero expectation that I was going to become a hypnotist. But when I went through this 2.5 day course, it transformed me so much so that I realized that like this is what I was put on this earth to do. Because I thought, if I can help people feel as good as I feel right now in that amount of time, and I can make a living doing it, I was all in. And, leading up to that point, I had months prior, I had my car repossessed. I had all my credit cards were maxed out, and I literally just stopped paying everything because I felt like I was drowning in financial debt, and there's nothing I was going to do to get out of it. So I was going into this course kind of in the lowest point of my life kind of moment. And it was surprising how it could, somebody that was so low, everything was so bad that in that short amount of time, it lit a fire and it flipped a switch in me. So I wanted to share this gift with the world. And so, my first 2 weeks, I hypnotized literally like 100 people for free. I was hypnotizing anybody and everybody that I could talk to. And in 2 weeks, I woke up on a Monday. It was 2 weeks exactly. And I had 10 appointments to go sell insurance. And I remember calling my assistant and said, "Hey, call everybody on today's calendar." And I said, "That's it. I'm never selling another insurance policy ever again in my life." And I quit. And I remember that day, my first two paying clients were my little brother and my little sister. So I called them up. I said, "Hey, I'm going to be a full-time hypnotist now. I need your help. I'm going to give you a deal of a lifetime. I'm going to give you 2 sessions for $200. Those were my first clients. So I signed up my first two clients and did $400 in my first day. Not that I got into this to make a bunch of money or anything. It was just, I was like, wow, I'm officially now like a hypnotist, right? Over that, over the first year, it was a little bit up and down as far as like being able to make an income and make money and things like this. However, I love what I do so much that the thought of quitting just never even entered my mind. Like I was just like, I don't care. This is so much better than what I was doing before, which was insurance. And, I actually took a pay cut to do hypnosis. Luckily, I guess, when I got rid of my car and my debt, all that stuff, and we moved, we downsized, and I cut out a lot of my expenses. So I was able to live very frugally for the first, like year, or really 2 years of going through this hypnosis journey. And as I was going through, again, it was getting clients from referrals and just promoting myself on social media. Back then I had like 5,000 Instagram followers, and that was all I had. And I think now we're approaching about 250,000 on Instagram. We've got like 20 something thousand on YouTube and another 19,000 on TikTok. And I don't know how many on Facebook, but anyways, you know, going through that first year, it was an interesting experience because of my enthusiasm and my passion and my excitement for what I do. within 6 weeks of going through my course, I worked with my first professional athlete ever, because I do jujitsu. I work with a lot of or work trained at the time with a lot of UFC fighters, and then that led to like a Joe Rogan thing and ESPN and working with other people. So very quickly, I kind of my credibility went up. Now, as I started to go through my journey, I finally started to figure out how to expand my business through running paid ads and messaging people, and I was really grinding that second year, which was just figuring out how to message people, how to book calls, and also honing in who I wanted to work with. In the beginning, I sort of took on, I was trying different things like quit smoking and weight loss and trauma release and all this other stuff. And then what I realized is that I want to help people who are like me, business owners, entrepreneurs, because that's what I had done for my whole entire life. I mean, my first entrepreneurial journey was selling weed in high school. And this is back when it was like super illegal. So it was more of a big deal at that time. So I had always been an entrepreneur, and I knew what the mental struggles were that I had gone through that led me to a point of, although I was working really, really hard and I was grinding every single day, it led me to a point of financial just destruction, right? Everything maxed out, credit went to crap. So I started to work with people in that arena. And that's what really got me excited and got the juices flowing. Like, hey, I know what you're going through. I know not only what you're going through, I know the mentality of what's keeping you stuck. Let me go through and let me help you remove it so you can create success. And so when I really found that groove, I really started to help clients like completely transform to where, people would start working with me, and then a month, 2 months later, their businesses would just completely explode. We're talking like two, three, four, 5x in a very short amount of time. Now, does that happen with everybody in that quick of a manner? Not necessarily. However, it sets people up to be able to get to there at a much quicker rate, right? So rather than it taking a year to maybe increase by 50%, it takes 6 months or 3 months or whatever. One thing's for sure, you don't do this type of work, it's going to make it a lot more challenging regardless of what level you're at. And when you do this type of work, it helps you really get to those levels faster. So anyways, I got to a point where, I was working 6 days a week. I was doing 6 to 8 sessions a day, and I would do my consultations on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I do my hypnosis sessions Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I remember I went to this course that I signed up for to learn more about hypnosis and NLP. And while I was in the course, the woman offered this $20,000 7-day training. It was more of like a spirituality, like learn how to use your intuitive abilities and like cool stuff like that, right? And during that course, I remember I had $5,000 in my bank account, but I really, really wanted to go. And so I put down a $3,000 deposit. Well, it turned out that the training was literally 1 month from that day. So I had to figure out how to come up with $17,000 to pay for the course plus money to pay for my expenses. And this, mind you, at this time I was making like $7,000 a month, maybe 5,000, somewhere in there. And so making essentially 20 grand in a month just seemed literally impossible. And I remember when I went to this course, I literally, the next day, it was on a Monday, I was lying in bed and I was looking up at the ceiling, just stressing, thinking about like, how the hell am I going to come up with 20 grand in a month to go to this course? Like, man, maybe I won't be able to do it, and I'll have to do it another time or blah, 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 whatever. And by the way, it's not like I could just get credit because my credit was completely destroyed. So it was like I had to make the money to make it happen. So I was sitting there laying in bed. I was just looking up. I'm like, oh my God, this is so, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Da, da, da. Bree, who's now my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she she just looked over and she's like, "You're stressing about that course, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." How'd you know? She's like, "I could just tell." I said, "Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to come up with the money. I mean, 20 grand in a month when I'm used to making like 5 or 6, that just seemed like such a stretch." And she went, "Oh, don't worry. You'll figure it out. You always do." And I remember in that moment, I literally went, and I said, "You're right." And when I got out of that scarcity mindset and I said, you know what, I'm going to figure out a way to do this. and I put myself in abundance, and I was so excited, so motivated to get this, to go to this course. In that month, I literally made $22,000 as a hypnotherapist. And it was crazy. I got the 17,000 to pay for the course, and I made $5,000 to pay my bills for that month. Now, here's what's crazy. When I went to this course, we set our intentions of like our goals, what we want to do, things like this. And I remember when I was in the course, I was like, I want to work with this type of client. This is the way I want to help them, and work with business owners and things like this. And I want to start making over $8,000 a week. So that was my goal, that was my vision. And we did some work around it. And no kidding, that very next week when I got out of this course, I literally I think I had 14 consultations, and I signed up 11 out of the 14 people, and I made about 14 grand in 1 week, which was a lot of money at the time. Now, back then, I was charging, I think, like $1,200 for 4 sessions or something like this. Yeah, whatever the math is on that. And so I was literally doing 8 to 10 sessions a day, plus consultations on the other days. And so I kind of got through that phase, and then I started thinking, man, I'm so busy. Like I'm getting so many clients that are reaching out, so many people that want to do work with me, that I need to figure out how to hire my first like sales person to do my consultations. This is just too much, too overwhelming. So I remember I brought on my first salesperson, and he was really, really good. At the time though, I was just overwhelmed. I was doing a lot of work, and like anything when you're learning new skills. So I had to learn how to be a hypnotist. Then I had to learn how to do ads. Then I had to learn, and looking at it now I'm in the position where I can bring people on my team, and I don't have to figure out how to learn how to do the thing, right? Like I'm not going to figure out how to do emails or AI or any of that. I'm going to go find the person who's highly skilled in that, and I'm going to bring them on so they can do it. But back then, I just didn't have this mindset. I didn't know about like this different way of doing it. So I'm here, I'm doing my hypnosis sessions, I'm figuring out marketing, I'm trying to manage and train and lead somebody. And in a matter of like it was working. He was signing people up, and he was actually a client of mine, really good guy. Um, and he was doing good. He was, crushing everything. We're doing great. And then one day I wake up and my Instagram is completely is completely they shut it down. So at this time, I think I had about 30,000 followers, and my VA was messaging people at the time, and I guess we were sending too many messages, and they had warned us, and then they shut it down. So now I was like, oh my God, this is something I learned later on, more recently actually, is like when you have only one acquisition channel or one way of getting clients, it makes your business very risky. And I learned that the hard way. Now, luckily at this time, this is like 6 months after I went to this course. So I really started to save up money, and I really started like to be able to get a cushion for myself. And I went through that, and my Instagram got shut down. I was like, oh man, I just hired this guy. Now my Instagram shut down. What am I going to do? How am I going to get him clients? So I remember diving into a YouTube course on how to run YouTube ads. And so I really dove into it, and I started like figuring out all the nuances. It was like one weekend, I just went deep for like 8 hours a day, and I figured out how to do it. I'm like, all right, I got to create an ad. So again, this is back when I would try to do everything myself, which I would never do in a million years now. But I created this ad, the structure of it, I edited the video, I did everything. And oh my God, the ad was just like, it was so good. And matter of fact, I started running advertisements to this ad, and we were getting very, very low cost appointments. So we're getting low cost appointments. And then on top of that, my guy is signing people up just left and right, bam, bam, bam. So running this ad for about 2.5 weeks. And then suddenly YouTube or Google shuts down the ads because I said something about anxiety. Hey, if you're feeling anxious about this or that. So then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I have no way of getting clients. And it was just very stressful. So I had to let him go. I said, look, man, I don't have any appointments for you. I don't want to keep stringing you along. I gave him like a $5,000 like parting, what do they call those? um, those packages that you, a severance package, because I felt bad. And then a couple weeks later, I was able to connect with the guy at my gym, my jujitsu gym, and he knew somebody that knew somebody. And finally, I was able to get my Instagram back. So I got my Instagram back and I started getting it going again, getting it going again. And then somebody that I knew, a girl that I met in a NLP and hypnosis course, we had still stayed connected because she was doing coaching and things like this. That's what it was. She reached out to do sessions. She's like, hey, I really need help. So I did some sessions with her. And when I did the sessions with her, she felt so great. And she was like, hey, are you looking for like somebody to be on your team? So then I ended up bringing her on like part time. She was doing good. She was doing good. And she was part time for a while. And then at some point, she ended up coming on full time and really just like crushing it. She was doing great. So then, as we started to do that, I was getting such a demand for myself that I wanted to bring on my first hypnotherapist outside of me. And by the way, let me say this throughout this entire process, I had so many limiting beliefs and so many fears and so many things have had come up for me. And that's a beautiful thing about growing a business is you really grow yourself. And if your business isn't growing, it's because you're not growing. And if you're not growing, your business isn't going to grow. And man, I could sit here and tell you one thing after another of all the fears and the things that I had to get over, the beliefs, like not being able to trust people in my business and so many things. I could go on forever. So, anyways, I remember it was funny. So when we brought on our first hypnotherapist, I trained her, got her going. And then for like 2 weeks, we were trying to sign people up to work with her. And I just, it wasn't working. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. So finally I laid down one day and I said, look, if this isn't working, it's because something is going on within me that's blocking this from happening. So one of the things we teach in our hypnosis training, by the way, if anybody wants to learn hypnosis, there's a free training down in the description you can get access to. Just go to it and you could do a free assessment, all that. But anyways, so one of the things we teach people in our hypnosis certification is how to do a breakthrough, meaning if you're getting resistance in your life, it's because something subconsciously, there's something holding you back that's not allowing you to draw that in. So I figured, okay, if if this is what's happening, then it's because there's something going on within me that's not letting this click. So I laid down, I did a breakthrough, and I figured out what it was, and I don't remember what it was at the time. It had something to do with hiring and bringing people on, and I actually fell asleep. And when I fell asleep, I remember waking up, and no joke, when I woke up, I want to say 10 minutes after I woke up, I got a text message saying, "Oh my God, we signed up our first client for our other hypnotherapist." I was like, "Wow." It was so cool. It actually what happened is my salesperson was reaching out to had talked to a guy earlier on that day, and then he said, "No, I'm going to think about it, whatever." And then he ended up reaching out to her literally 10 minutes after I got done with this breakthrough. So it was just so funny. So then after that, we started building that out. And then a couple months later, I started doing a quantum leap. And I wanted meaning like I started hypnotizing myself to go from, at the time, we are doing like $50,000 a month, helping X amount of clients. And I want to get to $500,000 a month. So I started practicing, my self hypnosis of doing that every single day. And I remember like, oh, in 1 month, we doubled, bam. And I was like, oh my God. So then I brought on another sales team member and then we started building out that. And then this is where I made it was a mistake that I made. However, I learned a lot, so you can't really take it back, right? But we started to get to the point where I wasn't able to get enough appointments for the team. I think I had 3 people at the time, so I wasn't able to get enough appointments for everybody. So I brought on a marketing company to really help me expand and they can run all my ads because I was doing everything myself. And as soon as I did that, I brought on more people. And then this is where everything kind of got funky. I started to scale my team so quickly and we started to scale ad spend so quickly that I remember we did like $250,000 in 1 month. And I want to say I made like 20 grand or 30 grand. It was probably like 35,000. I was like, oh my God, I spent so much money. I wonder if anybody's still listening to this story this far, but who knows? Hit the like button if you're still here, and comment below something if you're interested in hearing this. Man, I'm like 20 minutes in. Do I really want to keep going? So in January of that year is when I made the decision, like, hey, I want to start doing events. I want to do well. One, I was like, I want to do online courses, and I want to do events. I want to do trainings. But I had all these limiting beliefs, right? Like nobody would buy an online course from me. I don't have enough credibility. Nobody would ever come to Vegas to see me in person and whatever, right? So finally, after like feeling this resistance for a few weeks, I said, you know what? I'm going to lay down. I'm going to do a meditation that we call the low road and the high road. And if you're one of my clients, you'll know what I'm talking about. And essentially what I did is I actually listened to a meditation from somebody else about like taking the limiting beliefs that I had and then playing out my life as if I still had those limiting beliefs. And as I played out my life, I was like, okay, I'm going out 5 years into the future of still having these limiting beliefs, still only doing one-on-ones, being stuck to where I was, not having any expansion, not having any growth. And I was like, yeah, I'm making money, but at the same time, I'm working 6 days a week, which I'm fine with. I mean, I still do now, but like it was just being stuck and I'm not having time for my family and only like if I didn't work, that means I didn't make money. You know what I mean? So like I always had to keep working. And what happened is I ended up at the end of my life just seeing myself all alone. I had no family. My daughter, I only had one daughter at the time. She didn't want to talk, nobody, just I was divorced, everything. And I said, you know what? It was so painful. I remember I was literally curled up in a ball like this, just curled up. And it was so painful in that moment. I got so motivated. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this work. Like, I don't care about all the limiting beliefs. They just literally like went out the window. And I immediately started creating my first course. And then I never actually even rolled out that first course, but it was good practice for me. So now we're fast forwarding to when I started to scale. And in April of that year, so this is 2 years ago from today, April of that year, I went to a training in Miami. And as I was watching this 2 day training, it was cool. It was like a lot of high level people, like people who have sold their businesses for $100 million and people that are making millions of dollars a month. And it was really cool. However, for me personally, I was like, all that was happening during this training was people were going up and telling their story, right? They were talking about, yeah, I wanted to kill myself, or I was in jail, or this happened and that happened. And I was able to break free, and here I'm out. Here I am now, right? It was like the hero's journey. And I was like, yeah, this is powerful and it can definitely be motivating and inspiring and helpful to people. But I thought, the same time, there's not really any tangible thing that you can take away from this, meaning like a skill, a mindset hack, or even going internally and like really shifting our beliefs, right? Like really shifting our identity. And so as I was sitting in this training, I remember thinking to myself, like, man, I'm supposed to be up on that stage. Like I'm supposed to be doing this. And no offense to them, but I was like, I could do way better than these guys. Like I just knew it. I don't know why. And I remember I was like, okay, I want to do these trainings. But again, now the fears start coming up, right? The limiting beliefs. I remember it was a Friday night. This is actually when Israel Adesanya fought Alex Pereira in Miami, and he beat Alex Pereira. So it was the Friday night before that. And I remember sitting in my room, in my hotel room, and I just start getting anxiety, just like an overwhelming feeling of anxiety coming over me. I'm like, what the hell? Why do I feel so anxious right now? This is super weird. And so me, again, when I start to feel something or I get blocked, I do a breakthrough. I go internally, I figure out what the hell's going on, and I let it go. So I did a breakthrough, and again, I had resistance towards doing events, and I let it go. And when I let it go, I remember feeling that anxiety completely leave my body. And I made a decision. I said, hey, moving forward, we're doing events. And I think I either called or texted Bree, my wife, right then and there. I definitely know I texted her the next day, and I remember just saying, look, when I get back, we're going to find a venue to do our very first event, And I said, there's no backing out. Like, I'm all in. We're going to figure it out. So when I got back into town, I immediately started looking for venues here in Vegas. And a couple places they denied us because I do hypnosis, which is weird. I don't know. And then I want to say a week or two into it, I found my first venue, which was at Circa downtown. It's like the newest, nicest hotel in Vegas. And I remember I had 0 tickets sold. Nobody knew about this event, nothing. And I had to put down like, I don't know, 25, 30 grand or something like that for to go to this event or to just to book the room, right? That didn't include like my team and the audio visuals. Like it was a pretty decent amount, of money it's not that I didn't have it. It was more so of like, hey, fuck, what if I do this and nobody shows, right? Like I got to figure this out. So I did it, and then that led me to just start figuring it out. And thankfully, at the time, we did have, like, I had a lot of clients that I had worked with personally, and we had a lot of people that had worked with my team, my other hypnotherapists. So basically, we just invited all them. We said, "Hey, your program includes free tickets to my in-person event." And then we did my in-person event. I did it with somebody that I was working with at the time who helped me, which thankfully I had that because leading up to my first event, I literally lost my voice. Talk about a non-confront. I had so much anxiety and, feelings about it. I was like, oh, fuck. So we did our first event. It was actually a success. It went really well. And then after that, I was like, okay, now it's time to go bigger and better, right? So I'm like, okay, we had 100 people at our first one. I'm going to get 300 at our next one. So the next event rolled around. This is January 2024. And we had, man, it was fun. It was exciting. However, it was very stressful. It was because now I got a bigger room. I got more people. I spent money on a huge dinner and all this stuff. And it was like pretty much to do everything was like a six-figure investment. And yeah, and it just didn't go how I had planned it. And also, there's just a lot leading up to that. The things with my team were breaking and things were falling apart. And I remember after that event, it was like I achieved the coolest thing I've ever achieved in my life, which is putting on my second event with 300 people. And at the same time, like I financially had crushed myself. And it was like the highest high and then also my biggest failure literally at the same exact time. It was crazy. So I remember a week or two after, I think it was the week of, like I let people go that were on my team. I was like, it's just not working. And it was hard for me because, when you work with people for so long, especially people that are your clients, you develop like bonds and relationships with people that you don't really want to break off, but it's like, hey, this isn't working. So what do I do? Do I keep just biting the bullet and doing it? And really, it wasn't really anything on them. It was more of me, just like me not knowing, me putting people in the wrong position or prematurely like getting people in a position before they were actually ready. Not know, I just didn't know. Like I just made a lot of mistakes. And I learned a lot though. Now I know, like it's so cool to be able to have that experience. So, anyways, then I did another in-person event, and it went okay. We didn't have as many people because honestly, after that first event, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But it was funny because I sort of trapped myself, which is a good thing. Looking back on it, I trapped myself into having to do events. Hit the like button if you're still here. 30 minutes into this long story. So I trapped myself. Here's how I did it. When I sold tickets to my events, I would say, hey, if you can't come to this one, we're going to do another one in April. And if you can't go to that one, we're going to do another one in July. So what ended up happening is when I did my January event, and it was literally like, it was bad. Like it was not very good. People on the outside and people loved it. It wasn't that. It was a great event. It's just I financially crushed myself. I spent way too much. We didn't make enough to make it make sense. And I had spent so much time preparing for this one moment. It was just like, so I trapped myself because I promised all these people, hey, if you come to January or if you sign up for my program, you'll get tickets. And if you can't make it, you can come to April. So I'll be honest, like if I hadn't said that to people, I wouldn't have done another event. I wouldn't have because it was so I just I messed up so hard. It was so heavy on me, like just everything I was going through because when I was doing sessions and my team was doing sessions, I was like I was doing great. Like financially, everything was coming in every week. Like we're making more money. I'm financially I'm good. As soon as I shifted to do events, now I was like, I had to learn this whole other process. And then on top of that, I have to maintain what I have and learn something new. So I'm like juggling all this stuff at one time. And it just really stretched me mentally, emotionally. I remember there was nights where I would literally be up all night just stressing. Like I remember one night in particular, man, I had a giant just anxiety hole in my chest. And I remember like, man, there was time I cried. I'm not gonna lie, I cried quite a few times during that year because it was just, man, it was so tough. It was like, that was the hardest year I think I've ever gone through for sure. It was because again, I was quantum leaping. I want to go from 50,000 a month to 500,000 a month. And if you want to stretch like that, believe me, you're going to stretch and it's going to be painful. So long story short, I did my next event. It went okay. Again, thankfully, I trapped myself because if I didn't, I would have just said, you know what, that event went terrible. I don't want to do this anymore. It was too hard. Let me just go back to what I was doing, which was easy. I had it figured out. And for those of you who are business owners and entrepreneurs, I encourage you, like, just be aware. Sometimes when your business gets boring, that's when it's actually working, is right. Because often we become entrepreneurs because we like that shiny object, we like the challenge, we like the creativity. But you got to be very strategic because if you start messing with things when you finally figure them out, like just keep what you have going and let it be boring because that's what's going to help you to have the freedom to do what you love. Now, would I go back and do stay where I was at? No, but I'm just saying like be ready for that. Don't just think, hey, if I shift gears, this is what's going to happen. So, anyways, I did the next event. It went okay. Then we did our first retreat, which was amazing because it's crazy that when I really sit down and think about it, the hypnosis has really helped me create everything that I want into my actual real life. It's crazy. Like I wanted to do events. I decided I'm going to do an event, sold out my first event. I decided I want 300 people at my next event. We had 278 people. If you add my staff, it was almost 300. And then I wanted to do and I wanted to train people in hypnosis. My first hypnosis training, we had like 25 people. I wanted to do retreats in Tulum that we do twice a year. And my first one, we maxed that one out. And it's like everything that I want to happen fucking happens. It's crazy. It's just sometimes it stretches you. So we did my first retreat and then so I did an event in April, went okay. And then my next event was supposed to be in July. But I was like, man, I need a break. I need a break. I was working every single Saturday doing my webinars, my sessions to get people to sign up for my events. And I had been, not only are you so when you're putting on an event, it's the putting on of the event, that's stress, that's work, but it's also preparing for it, putting together all the content, spending hours and hours and hours, like it's like you're creating this sculpture of this thing. And it was just, man, I was working 16 hours a day, it seemed like. And so I said, you know what? I don't know if I want to do another event. I'm worn out. So I took a couple of weeks off. Well, I was still working. I took a couple of weeks off from doing my Saturday call. And finally, I gave myself that break and I said, you know what? Okay, let's get back to it. I'm not going to do an event in July. I'm going to do it in August. I need a little bit more time to prepare, whatever. So we did the August event. And I remember I literally, we go through the whole event Friday, Saturday, Sunday rolls around. So one of the things at my events is for the people who feel called to help others, or even they just want to learn hypnosis, we offer up our certification and my retreat, right? Just as like, if you guys want to come, come. I don't make it a pitch fest where that's all I talk about because I've been to pitch fest before and they're like the worst. But it's something we offer. Like, hey, if you feel called to do this, do it. If not, that's okay too. So I remember on Sunday, I got in August, I got together with my team, and one of the ladies who we had hired, I hired a group of people to help me, and then they hired somebody to help to bring on. And she goes, we had no signups. Nobody had signed up for my certification. Zero people. And and I put on this event. It's expensive, everything. And then this woman goes, "Oh my God, we have no signups. This has never happened before." And this lady does like events, right? So when she said this, I literally was like, "Oh my God, it's Sunday morning. We don't have any signups. This has never happened before." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm a failure. Like I suck at this. I'm not like this isn't for me." And I literally out loud said, "I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this." I was like, "I give up. This is too stressful. It's too much. I could just go back to doing sessions and it'll be fine. Like I could just work that system. I don't want to do this anymore." And in that moment, I like for 3 minutes, I quit. You know, I was like, "I'm done. I don't, I, in my mind, I thought it was made up. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore." And I'm like, you know what? Uh, well, I'm here. We have one more day left. Let's see how the rest of the day goes. I'm not going to quit yet. Now, mind you, I'm going through all of this as I'm like going into but teach a bunch of people. So I'm not even in the right mindset. So we had done a dinner the night before and we invited people. It was like a VIP dinner. And so all those people got to come back early for a hypnosis session or a training, I think it was. And when all these people came back early, I said, "Look, guys, here's what we're going to do." I said, "If the program's X amount, it's like if you've signed up for this program before, I'm going to give you a credit for what you've invested." And I said, "But here's the thing, like I'm only I'm only doing this today and whatever." And I said, I forget what else I said. And I said, also like the first person that signs up to do training, gets a session with me. And I remember one of my clients jumped up and she ran to the back, and then a bunch of other people jumped up and ran to the back to sign up. Oh, I remember I said, "Hey, you guys are the people who paid for the VIP dinner. I'm going to give you the offer. It's first come, first serve." And I said, when everybody else comes back in, they're going to, and this is real. Like I'm only giving this to so many people. I think it was 20. And so if you don't take advantage of it and the other people come in who weren't at the VIP training, like it's gone. And so we ended up signing up some people and I was like, okay, okay. I'm hanging in there. Like I'm getting beat up, but I'm still fighting, right? I'm still fighting to make this happen. It's like, it's so funny. So then that was September of 2024. So now we're in 2025, and I said, "Look, I need a break from doing events, and I gotta like figure everything out." And for the first time in 3 years, I actually had to jump on and do consultations because like things were just not clicking right. Like I had hired some people to do consultations, they didn't work out. Hired another team of people to do consultations, they didn't work out. So I was like, I got to get back. So the first time in 3 years, I started doing consultations, and then I slowly brought people in again, trained them, and now they're the team that I have now. And and then I prepared for our next event, which is January, and it went well. It was good. We had 100 people there. It was really great. People loved it. And then this event, which you see me here, we just did, and I finally feel like I've got it down. Now it's just a process of refining it. And um and even from the people, like, man, I was surprised at how many. We had like 205 people well, we had 230, but some people had to leave. We already knew they had to leave, but like we had about 205 people that were there for the whole weekend, and by Sunday I think we had 197 people still there. So we had like a 96% uh, retention rate of people staying on for the live training, and it was really my best one for sure. So anyways, that's been my journey, and a lot of cool stuff has happened in between that I didn't get into. A lot of interesting stories. I've grown so much as a person, just like with the hypnosis stuff, as a business person, as a dad, as a leader. um as a hypnotherapist, as an intuitive, like harnessing my intuitive abilities. And yeah, and here we are now. And it's like, okay, let's keep what we have going. No more switching. We're just going to keep refining and improving what we're doing. And I really foresee us really taking this to the next level. Like I feel like our next event will probably have twice as many people attend, and then we'll just keep going from here. And it's been fun. So moral of the story is, like, I don't know. There's a lot of morals of this story. If you can thank God. So thank God that I love hypnosis so much, and I love this personal development stuff so much, that because if not, I would have definitely quit at some point. Like I told you, in that one moment, I was going to quit doing hypnosis, but I was like, I'm done with events. And I swear to God, there's like, man, if you could just get through that, the part where you want to quit, and just not quit and just see it through, even though like everything's telling you it seems like not to do it, and you just keep persisting, eventually you just crack the code, man. And then and then things just start going in the direction of what you want them to go. So you've got to be tough and mentally and durable and resilient, and literally just like, don't fucking quit, man. Just don't quit, and just keep working on yourself. Just keep going, whatever it is. You know, because had I quit when I said, oh man, I'm going to, I wouldn't be able to get to experience this now. And now I can sit here and make videos in my basement, and I don't have to do any work after this. If I want to, I am going to do work, but I don't have to. Where before I was constantly scrambling, and it's a beautiful feeling. So anyways, if you guys like this video, hit the like button, comment your thoughts down below. Tell me about a time maybe you wanted to quit on yourself or something. And again, if you want that free training, the hypnosis training, it's down in the description. All right. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.